You hear the sound first. A single bell tolling in the distance, its mournful cry rolling across empty courtyards and through corridors that have witnessed centuries of betrayal. The air is damp, heavy with smoke and the faint sting of iron, the smell of blood that never seems to wash from stone. Torches sputter along the walls, throwing long shadows that dance like ghosts, and in the flickering light you feel the weight of a silence that could shatter at any moment. A figure emerges. Not Diana, not yet, but another princess. Her gown drags against the cold floor, her face pale beneath the golden crown that feels less like an honor than a chain. Her eyes dart toward the throne, toward the brother who judges her, and you sense the terror that coils inside her chest. The court holds its breath. A choice is about to be made, one that will ripple far beyond this chamber, staining generations with its consequences. Then the vision shifts. The silence is torn apart by a roar of applause, by a million voices crying out in adoration. You are no longer in a dim Tudor hall, but beneath the blinding flash of cameras. A young woman in white silk, radiant and trembling, walks the length of an aisle toward her prince. Diana, the people's princess. Her gown billows like a cloud of innocence and hope, and the world believes they are watching a fairy tale. But you, standing between these two worlds, know something more. You feel the crack in the mirror, the thread that binds the trembling Tudor princess to Diana across 5 centuries. The same bloodline, the same burden, the same curse hidden in plain sight. Her smile may dazzle, but it cannot mask the shadow of history pressing in on her shoulders. We all think we know Diana. We think she was simply a modern girl from an old aristocratic house, an outsider drawn into the monarchy's cage of gold. But hidden deep within her family tree lies a secret, a bloody Tudor secret, one that twists her story into something older, darker, and far more dangerous than we have ever imagined. The question presses on you now. Was Diana's fate truly her own? Or was she already carrying the weight of a Tudor legacy written in blood long before she was born? Before we unravel this hidden legacy, tell me, did you ever suspect Diana had Tudor blood? Drop a comment below, and if you're new to Echoes of Time, consider joining us as we uncover history's buried truths. The silence of Diana's secret ancestry draws you backward, deeper into the dark corridors of time, until the year is no longer 1981, but 1485. The earth is wet with the blood of Englishmen, the final echoes of the Wars of the Roses still ringing across battlefields where brother fought brother, cousin slew cousin, and the crown itself passed like a cursed relic from hand to hand. It was here, in the smoke and ruin of Bosworth Field, that a new name rose from the ashes. Tudor. Henry VII, cautious, calculating, stepped forward as king. His victory ended decades of civil war, but it birthed something darker, the belief that his fragile dynasty could never be secure unless every rival line was extinguished. From that moment, the Tudors ruled with one thought alone: survival. Every marriage, every alliance, every execution was a move on a blood-soaked chessboard. And none played the game with more hunger, more obsession, than Henry VII's son, Henry VIII. You see him now, towering and restless, his eyes burning with a desperation that never sleeps. He wears the crown like armor, but his mind is consumed not with glory, but with legacy. 6 wives would bear the weight of that obsession, their fates sealed by his hunger for a son. Divorce, exile, beheadings. The rhythm of his reign beats like a drum of doom, each strike reminding England that the Tudor line stood forever on the edge of collapse. But there was another figure in his shadow, a woman who smiled in the gilded halls of power, whose laughter softened the king's heart. Mary Tudor, his beloved sister. She was more than a royal ornament. She was a pawn in the dynasty's survival. Married off to Louis XII of France, she became queen, her life traded like coin in the Tudors' struggle to secure their throne. And yet Mary was no obedient pawn. When fate stole her husband and left her widowed, she made a choice that would shake the dynasty to its core. A choice that carried love, defiance, and danger in equal measure. A choice whose consequences would reach far beyond her lifetime, straight into the veins of Diana herself. Dynasties rise and fall, but bloodlines endure. Do you think bloodline still matters in today's monarchy? Subscribe if you believe history still shapes our future. Comment if you think it doesn't. The court of France was heavy with incense and intrigue when Mary Tudor was crowned queen. Draped in jewels, her beauty shone beneath the vaulted ceilings of Paris. Yet behind the splendor was the suffocating weight of duty. She had been given, not to love, but to strategy. Married to the aging Louis XII, a man old enough to be her grandfather. The match promised alliance, not affection, and every smile she offered at court was a mask hiding her despair. Whispers followed her through the marble halls, that her youth mocked the king's failing body, that the union could never last, that her true heart lay elsewhere. And within weeks, those whispers became truth. Louis XII was dead, carried to his grave by age and exhaustion, leaving Mary a widow draped in black, her crown suddenly as hollow as the life it had given her. But freedom gave her courage. For even before France, her heart had belonged to another, Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk. Handsome, daring, and dangerously close to Henry VIII, Brandon was no ordinary courtier. He was the king's most trusted companion, his jousting partner, his closest friend. To marry him without permission was to invite ruin, to defy both brother and crown. And yet Mary did it. In secret chambers under the cloak of mourning, vows were spoken, hands clasped, and the forbidden union was sealed. What she did was nothing less than treason against her brother's will, a direct defiance of the Tudor order. When word reached Henry VIII, his fury shook the court. The betrayal cut deeper because it was personal. Brandon had been like a brother, and now he had stolen one. For days, the threat of death hung over them both. Courtiers whispered that an axe would claim the duke, that even Mary's royal blood would not save her. But Henry was a man of both wrath and calculation. He saw opportunity in punishment. The lovers were spared the block, but not the cost. To buy their survival, they paid a crushing fine so vast it nearly broke them. Their wealth drained, their honor stained, but their marriage endured. Against all odds, Mary Tudor and Charles Brandon remained together. From that scandalous defiance, from the ashes of fear and near destruction, a new line was born. The Brandon children carried within them both Tudor blood and the shadow of rebellion. A line the crown sought to control, yet one that history would not silence. For it was this union, forged in secrecy and near execution, that would echo across the centuries until it reached the veins of Princess Diana herself. Before we continue, consider this. Love can defy kings, but it cannot escape history. Would you have risked everything, as Mary did, for love against power? Subscribe to Echoes of Time to follow these forbidden legacies. Comment below if you believe power always wins over love. From Mary Tudor and Charles Brandon came daughters who carried not only beauty and nobility, but the dangerous inheritance of their mother's defiance. Chief among them was Frances Brandon, a woman whose name is rarely spoken beyond the footnotes of history, yet whose womb would shape the fate of England. She was the mother of the Grey Sisters, the three fragile stars whose light burned briefly, cruelly, and whose tragedy was written in blood. The eldest, Jane Grey, is the one history remembers most. You see her in your mind, a girl of rare learning, pale skin lit by candlelight as she turned the pages of her Latin texts. She was not raised for power, yet power was thrust upon her. In the chaos after Edward VI's death, factions at court used her as their pawn, crowning her queen against the will of the people. For 9 days, she held the crown, her name spoken in trembling whispers as England looked on in confusion. But 9 days was all it took for her world to collapse. Mary Tudor, Henry VIII's daughter, claimed her throne, and Jane, just 16, perhaps 17, was dragged to the scaffold. The axe fell, and her blood seeped into the tower stones, a sacrifice to ambition she never sought. Her sister Catherine fared little better. Where Jane had been a scholar, Catherine was a girl who longed for love. She found it in Edward Seymour, a man of noble blood, and in secret they bound themselves in marriage. But secrecy was poison in Elizabeth's court. When the truth surfaced, the Queen's fury was merciless. Catherine was cast into the Tower, her children branded illegitimate, her life caged behind iron bars. She wasted away in confinement, the laughter of her youth replaced by the silence of despair. And then there was Mary Grey, the youngest, frail in stature, overlooked by history's chroniclers. In a bid for happiness, she too defied her queen, marrying beneath her station to a man of simple service, Thomas Keyes. But love brought no escape. Elizabeth's judgment was swift. Mary was condemned to a lifetime of house arrest, her marriage suffocated by distance, her hopes left to rot in lonely rooms until death claimed her. 3 sisters, 3 lives broken, each punished not for crimes of their own making, but because their bloodline carried a threat to the crown. The Tudors sought to extinguish them, to erase the danger their existence posed. And yet, though their bodies perished and their names were darkened, the blood endured, silenced but not destroyed, waiting. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? 3 sisters destroyed by ambition and suspicion. If you value giving voice to forgotten figures of history, subscribe to Echoes of Time, and if not, tell me in the comments why you'd rather let these stories stay buried. After the fall of the Grey sisters, it seemed the line was broken, stamped out beneath the heel of Tudor vengeance. The scaffold had claimed Jane. The Tower had devoured Catherine. The walls of lonely confinement had silenced Mary. With their deaths, the threat to Elizabeth's throne was contained, and the Tudor crown stood unchallenged. Yet history is never so easily controlled. Blood does not vanish. It seeps into the soil, threads itself quietly into the veins of the living, and hides where no king or queen dares look. And so it was with the descendants of Mary Tudor. No longer courted by monarchs or paraded as heirs, the Brandon blood slipped into the shadows of the English countryside. It found refuge in lesser halls, in the drawing rooms of gentry and the estates of landed nobility. No longer queens or prisoners, they became wives, sons, cousins. Faces that disappeared from royal portraits, their names little more than ink on parish records and genealogical scrolls. Generations passed. Wars raged across Europe. Thrones rose and fell. The Tudors themselves burned out, their dynasty extinguished in 1603 when Elizabeth I died childless. The Stuarts took their place, and with them came new struggles, new wars, new betrayals. Through it all, the descendants of Mary Tudor endured, not in crowns and titles, but in silence. They learned that survival sometimes means obscurity. To live, they became shadows, and yet that shadow never died. Each child carried a flicker of the old fire, a sliver of blood once considered so dangerous that queens had locked it away behind stone walls. For centuries, it passed quietly, an inheritance unspoken, a secret buried in family trees no one cared to trace. But history has a way of circling back. The blood that once terrified monarchs, the blood that flowed from scaffold to dungeon, did not vanish. It waited patiently, slipping from house to house, name to name, until the world had all but forgotten. And then, in an age of cameras and carriages, in a time when fairy tales were broadcast across television screens, it resurfaced. The shadowed bloodline stepped once more into the light. This time, through a woman the world believed they knew. Diana, if you're still with us, you're part of a rare group who craves the deeper layers of history. Subscribe now to Echoes of Time and journey with us. But if you won't, tell me why in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The centuries of silence end in the rolling green fields of Northamptonshire, where an old aristocratic house stood proud among England's nobility. The Spencers. Their name was known for land, wealth, and duty, but beneath the polished titles and stately portraits lay a lineage far older, far darker, and tied to the Tudors themselves. Follow the branches of that family tree, and the pattern begins to emerge. From Mary Tudor and Charles Brandon came the Brandon daughters. From Frances Brandon came the Grey sisters, their lives cut short but their bloodline preserved in quiet descendants who slipped beneath the notice of kings. Generations later, that blood mingled with other noble families, until it rooted itself firmly in the Spencer line, the very line that would give birth to Diana Frances Spencer. She was never just a country girl chosen for her innocence, never merely an outsider plucked from aristocracy to become a royal bride. She was, in truth, a Tudor heiress in disguise, The same blood that ran through Mary Tudor, through Jane Grey, through Catherine and Mary Grey, flowed in her veins. It was a legacy more ancient than Charles's, more dangerous than any imagined by those who called her common in comparison to her husband. When Diana walked down the aisle in 1981, the cameras showed a fairy tale. A young woman marrying into the House of Windsor, uniting the modern monarchy with the hopes of the people. But unseen beneath the veil was something far more symbolic. Her union with Charles was not merely love or arrangement. It was history itself circling back. The Tudors, thought extinguished, had returned to the throne in blood. Her children would not only inherit Windsor blood, but the shadowed inheritance of the Brandon line. Through William, the heir apparent, the Tudors, banished, executed, erased, rose again. Diana was not an outsider looking in. She was the hidden key that unlocked the past and reunited a lost claim with the crown itself. History never truly dies. It waits. And in Diana, it had found its voice once more. Before we continue, ask yourself this. Was Diana's marriage destiny? Or was it the fulfillment of a bloodline long denied its place? Subscribe to Echoes of Time if you believe history shapes the present. And if not, tell me in the comments why you think the past should remain buried. The story finds its circle not in the dusty records of the past, but in the living face of a man destined for the crown. Prince William, son of Diana, heir to the throne of Britain. To the world he is the future of the monarchy, a symbol of continuity, of duty, of renewal. But within him flows something far more ancient than ceremony or constitution. In his veins runs the blood of Mary Tudor, the defiance of Charles Brandon, the tragedy of the Grey sisters. The Tudors, burned out in 1603, erased by fire and axe, returned through him. Think of it. The dynasty once thought extinguished by Elizabeth's childless death, the dynasty whose rivals were beheaded, whose daughters were confined and erased, now lives again in a future king. History has no straight lines. It coils back on itself, binding old wounds to new faces. William's crown will not only be Windsor's, it will be Tudor's revenge, silent but undeniable. Diana, the woman seen as a fragile outsider, was in truth the hidden vessel of a forbidden inheritance. And through her, the secret the Tudors tried to bury has risen to the very top of the monarchy. The bloody Tudor secret has completed its circle. So what do you think? Does history's bloody past echo through the crown today? Join us at Echoes of Time by subscribing, and share your thoughts in the comments if you choose not to. Let's make history a conversation, not just a story. History never truly dies. It lingers like a shadow at the edge of light, waiting for the moment when someone dares to look closer. It hides in names that echo across centuries, in faces that resemble those long buried, in family trees whose branches twist with secrets. It whispers through bloodlines, shaping destinies even when the world believes the past has been buried. In Diana's story, that whisper becomes a voice that carries the laughter of Mary Tudor, the defiance of Charles Brandon, the sorrow of Jane, Catherine, and Mary Grey. A voice that reminds us that the Tudors were never truly gone. They only changed their form, slipping quietly through the veins of time until they emerged again in the most unexpected figure, the people's princess. And now, in her son, the future king, that voice becomes a roar. The Tudors, silenced by axe and prison, rise again, not as claimants, but as destiny fulfilled. The rose once thought withered blooms once more in the heart of the crown. History never truly dies. It hides in names, in faces, in family trees, waiting to be uncovered. And in Diana's story, the Tudors rise again. Before you leave, carry this thought with you. How many other secrets still lie hidden in the bloodlines of history? Subscribe to Echoes of Time, and if you choose not to, tell me in the comments why some stories should remain untold.